Hey there, Shoreline Storm. It's Mr. G. It's another beautiful day here in Victoria. And having spent most of my day cooped up inside, sitting at a computer, I'm really feeling the urge right now to be out enjoying some sunshine, getting some fresh air, and enjoying the park that I live next to in a safe and respectful way. There's a few people out here today, but luckily I've carved out a little corner for myself where I was hoping to go through a few kicking activities. If you're like me, you've probably been missing rugby quite a bit, and not being able to be on the field with everybody is disappointing. But one of the things that we can work on while we're on our own, while we're self-isolating, and while we're staying at home is improving our baseline skills. By improving your baseline skills, when you rejoin the crew on the field, you'll be in a great position to showcase some new skills, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to go through today 3 different types of kicks, all very important to rugby, and of course the fundamentals of passing. What I've noticed, in fact recently here at this park, I saw some people out playing rugby the other day, but it looked like they were missing some of those fundamental skills to make good passes. And so if you're practicing at home, I really want to let you know that practicing technique is better than repetition. Trying to get things just right and taking your time to figure things out just right, and then applying those techniques to perfect practice, that's what's going to make you perfect. Okay, so to begin with, I thought I've already done the stretching routine, and if you haven't seen the stretching routine, go back. It's there. It's opened up in the YouTube channel. But if you haven't warmed up yet, definitely take a minute to stretch out. I also want to go through a quick warm-up now that'll show you how to warm up those legs prior to kicking, which is pretty important too. Okay, so here behind me, you'll see I've got a few cones set out. I've got one cone in a distance. That's going to be my starting point. And then I've got some shuffle cones, and then I've got a final return cone. What I've done here is space things out. I'm going to try and do some circuits where we try a few different things to warm up different muscles in our legs. Okay, come along with me. I'm going to keep the ball with me because I just love having the ball in my hand. That's why I don't really enjoy running as much as I should, but if I've got a purpose, then I'm up for it. Join me. Start things off with a quick warm-up run. Get around it maybe 5 to 10 times. Go back to the start. Oh, am I going over? Go back to the start. Now we're going to start doing some things without the ball in our hand just to keep our balance better. High knees. Left kickers. Much like you've seen on previous videos, quick steps. In and outs are good, or side to side. All great warm activities. Get you ready to kick. Warm those legs up a bit. So 3 different types of kick that we'll talk about today. First is kicking for distance. Often in rugby, to advance your team's goals, you need to kick for length and distance. And much like a soccer punt, that involves leaning back and kicking high so that you can get some flight behind the ball. The second type is going to be the rugger kick. The rugger is a tactical kick which goes along the ground and allows your teammates to run onto and perhaps catch, or catch the defensive team offhand and set them back quite a bit. Third is the box kick. And the box kick's used for small adjustments, increment advances, so that your team can gain maybe 10 to 15 yards while maintaining possession. Let's move a little bit closer here. Take a look at a few different types of kicks. You can see that I've set myself up at my local baseball diamond. Now, number one, I'm definitely going to be making my efforts to kick off the grass. I can tell by my camera angle that the edge of the grass is sort of where I have the opportunity to kick from. So I'll use the cone that's on the ground as a starting point for good kicks. There we go. What you'll see first is a punt style kick from my hands. What I'll be doing is trying to grasp a ball in such a way that with my hands on one of the 4 major quadrants, I have an entire side fully inflated ball to put my big foot to. I'm holding my hands on either side because I know that'll keep it out in front of me. Got my thumbs pointed down the reverse side. So where am I kicking to? I'm trying to kick through my thumbs. As I stand here, I'm going to take a target of the backstop. You can see the stone structure in the distance, and that's what I'm going to be aiming for. My first kick is going to be for height and distance. So ideally, what I'd like it to do is land somewhere around home plate. Let's try. Fairly close. I'm making sure that I'm transferring the majority of my weight onto my left foot. I'm right-footed. So as I step into the kick, I put my left foot forward, decide where I'm aiming, keep it around that point, and keep my hands out in front of me so that I can extend the ball as I kick. For advanced kickers, trying to create outside spin or a spinning, rotating ball in the air is done so by kicking it on the outside of your foot. But for now, we're going to think about making solid contact. So again, I take 2 steps. 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, weight on my left foot, I'm putting the ball in front of me, I'm holding it there until my foot is coming through to release and make contact. Timing's everything here, boys and girls. If you're trying to kick for distance or height, it's going to depend on how angled you hold the ball as you kick it. And we'll get into that more later. Let's try another standard punt. Off the side of my foot and out to the left a little bit. Again, if you're a soccer player and you're trying to convert these skills over to rugby, one great way to successfully kick a punt is to hold the ball with a slight angle downwards. You'll be able to run into the ball and kick as you would a free kick from soccer and try and utilize your powerful skills to move the ball forward. This involves holding the ball more out in front of you, but on a slightly downward angle. Again, giving good distance and not time out the outside of the foot, some decent rotation as well. Next up, the rugger kick. The rugger kick is one that involves really paying particular attention to where on the ball you're connecting with it with your foot. In this case, you're going to want to hold the ball out in front of you, again, straight up and down, not so much on the seam, but with an entire side at your foot and up top. When we think about the ball on its side, we want to create a rotation that goes forward along the ground. And to do so, we only need to kick the top side of the ball. Taking aim straight ahead allows us to create a forward rotation and a very tricky bounce for our opponents to receive. Let's try the rugger. First bounce goes high, but it's a quick ball. It's played along the ground, and it's one that can get your team advancing 10 to 15 yards when kicked on the appropriate angle. Another rugger kick. Again, the ball's out in front. In this case, unlike the punt, where I'm really allowing my leg to carry up high, I'm trying to keep my knee above my foot so that I can keep the angle of the ball downward into the ground. That creates a longer roll and some of those funny pops. Sometimes very challenging to field. Let's try the third. The final kick to think about is one that comes primarily from halfbacks, scrum halves, fly halves, people next to the breakdown. When the ball is making progress with the pack, if the pack is tied up and thus our forward players, those members of the scrum, are committed to a breakdown, the ball is going to be situated in such a way that might need a bit of time delay to allow the scrummers to get up from the breakdown, to allow them to recoup and advance to where the ball needs to be. To do so, a scrum half or a fly half can use a box kick to create what is a trajectory that goes straight up, over, and down, maybe only a distance of 10 to 15 yards. But it allows the backs to engage in a type of aggressive play that might free up some time for the frontline players, the scrummers, to get there to support the breakdown again. Now this play usually comes out of the breakdown, so if it was something that a scrum half was to encounter, what he'd probably want to do primarily is pick up the ball, take one step back from the breakdown, go straight up in the air with the ball, and then move himself so that he's in a position to catch it and field it. This is very important. Let's try it out. Ball's at the breakdown. Ball's coming. The scrum half can take a left foot, step out, and create a trajectory that's going straight up. Ball comes out, straight up. It's a great tactical way to take pressure off the scrimmage, off the breakdown, and off the front pack players, and allow the backs to engage in a bit of scrimmaging on the mode. By creating height, we create the opportunity for our back players to advance past the scrimmage line and into the opponent's territory. Let's try one more time. So again, the ball's at the breakdown. We've got our scrum players basically in the gravel. The ball's going to come out in an opportunity to create space and time for them to recover. Ball's out. Step back with the left. Again, we're going towards our center target. So we're stepping back to our left to create the space and the protection for the ball to get away so that any approaching scrum half doesn't have the opportunity to, say, bat it down. Ball comes out, transfer to the left, and strike straight up. It's only going about 10 yards, but it's giving us the opportunity to take some of the pressure off those pack players who are in the breakdown and advance our backs to make maybe a great play. You never know which way a rugby ball is going to bounce, and when it bounces a little funny, sometimes that creates some real confusion for the opponents. So try these different techniques: kicking for distance, the rugger kick along the ground, and a box kick. One of the other great ways to continually practice receiving these types of crazy kicks is to kick to yourself. If you've got a ball at home, whether it be a soccer ball, a rugby ball, a football, all of these balls have a different type of trajectory when they're in the air. And one of the fun things you can do is practice kicks to yourself. You can start with little kicks for control. It'll also help you work on hand-eye coordination as you handle the ball. This particular ball doesn't have much grip, so I think it's extra challenging. So when I kick it up to myself, I'm going to try and focus on keeping it controlled, so a light touch, but also making contact with the ball in the right part of the ball. I want to avoid the seam. I want to hit it on a fat side. And I'll also notice, as I kick, the spin that's generated on the ball. When I kick it off the arch of my foot, the spin is backwards. It makes me realize that if I'm standing straight up and down, then to kick a ball, I should kick it straight up and down. But if it's got backwards rotation, then as I continually lean my body further back and try and extend my foot further forward, I have to be cognizant of the ball traveling forward and my body protecting against going backwards. If I lean back too much, I'm going to kick it off my foot and it's going to go behind me. So you always want to be conscientious, boys and girls, especially when you're drop kicking a ball or punting a ball, to try and keep your body weight centered over the kicking area. And that can be tricky because you want to keep the ball out in front of you. And you want to keep your eye on the ball. But when you're really kicking it for distance or trying to make ground, keeping your body weight out in front of you as you kick the ball forward allows you to project the ball on a trajectory that's going to get it a little bit extra distance. Join me next time and we'll talk more about the drop kick. Probably one of the most challenging kicks in rugby. Unlike our other three, it involves actually touching the ground before you kick it. And it does involve quite a bit of body fluidity. Your body moving in motion and the timing just so to get it right. Hope to see you again, boys and girls.